Hello, everyone, and welcome to Borderless Executive Live. My special guest today is Chris DeArmitt. Chris is an internationally recognized scientist. He's an author, thought leader in material science, and known for his relentless commitment to uncovering and communicating the truth about plastics. He's got a career spanning decades, and he's grounded as a good scientist in peer-reviewed research. He stands out at the forefront of dispelling some of the myths and correcting a lot of the misinformation that's pervasive in today's environmental discourse, even as we speak in the US right now. Was it Washington Post, you said, Chris?
Yes, they've got a new article that's full of nonsense, so I'm trying to communicate with the reporter and tell her she should have checked her facts before scaring everyone.
So what is this particular thing about?
About over a year ago, there was a publication. It wasn't officially released a year ago, but it leaked out because it was so sensational, claiming we have a spoonful of microplastics in our brains. Even then, even before it was officially released, I put up a web page. So if you search for that on Phantom Plastics, you'll see a whole page about the science of that. I mean, the study is just absolutely nuts. It's just wrong. They used a technique which is proven to not work. Literally, other scientists said, you cannot use this method. It does not work. And that's the method that they used. And unfortunately, because this claim is so sensational, it goes around the world and you hear echoes of it again and again. So even though it's been dispelled by me and groups of other scientists all around the world over and over, it still keeps coming back like a bad penny. So even today, it was in the Washington Post. I've called out the Washington Post before for publishing this nonsense. They said that microplastics is linked to Alzheimer's in mice. And it's all the stuff that she talks about is just nonsense. These reporters don't know what they're talking about. They don't understand science and they don't check it with people who do.
So the intention of these articles is essentially to sell more papers, right?
Yes, if it bleeds, it leads. So scare the bejesus out of people and sell more articles, unfortunately. I mean, I imagine people go to journalist school, with these ideas of breaking a big story and being a crusader for truth, but it seems like 95% of them have just sold out and they'll just publish anything if it's scary enough.
Well, it is a pity because there are a few really outstanding journalists around who do report factually on science.
The other thing is, I don't expect everyone to believe what I say automatically, but they should at least check the facts. They should check to see, was this study credible? What other scientists are, what does the other side have to say about this? Is it even credible? But they're not even doing that. If it sounds scary enough, they just publish it without a blink.
Well, of course, for that, you need to understand how these things should be published. You need to understand how scientific publications work and what's relevant and what isn't.
Yeah. What frustrates me is that every day somebody tells me I'm wrong. And I'm like, well, really? How many studies have you read? I've read 5,000 so far, unpaid, to find the truth, all because my daughters were lied to at school. And not only that, people think I'm here to sell a book, right? Here's my latest book. But this one and the first one, The Plastics Paradox, they're both for free. You can download them in multiple languages for free. So I've read 5,000 studies unpaid. It took me 5 years. And not only that, I then went and had the conclusions checked by university professors all around the world. And imagine I was wrong, right? Imagine I was a charlatan. The last thing I would do is send my findings to top professors around the world and ask them to check it because I'd be a laughingstock. So these professors have also endorsed the findings. And it's absolutely solid. It's the most comprehensive independent review.
We last talked on this subject, you and I, together about 2 years ago. And I was really keen to understand from your perspective what has changed in the way that this science is being reported.
Yes. Yes. One thing that's changed for me recently is that normally I read a journalist article, it's nonsense, and then you have to write to them and tell them that it's nonsense. And by then it's too late, right? The horse has bolted and they don't want to admit that they were wrong. They don't want to look at evidence. They've moved on in the news cycle. And now I'm on some sites where journalists look for experts before they've written the article. So now journalists are coming to me again and again. So I've been in Food and Wine, I've been Homes and Gardens, I've been in MedCity Health, I've been in lots of different publications. I've corrected people on CNET and other major...
BBC Two, as I recall.
Yeah, BBC Two. I've been on Sky News. I've been on CBS 60 Minutes, and I've even corrected the BBC when they had one of these
strangling
turtle. Yes, they had a turtle with a bag around its neck. There's never been a picture of that in the history of the world. It was photoshopped, and I said, please remove your misleading image. In fact, there was a study. They tow this little netter behind a boat for millions of miles. They've sailed over decades, and they have to sail 100,000 miles to find one piece of plastic bag in the ocean. And yet the BBC and everyone else is telling us that the oceans are choking in plastic and it's killing the turtles. And it's just not true.
That are choking in plastic because of the way people are disposing of these materials.
Yes, that's one of the things that's right. Scientists have studied that too. There is litter on beaches, and they've studied that, and it's dropped by the people on the beaches, surprisingly enough.
Yeah.
So, and they can tell that because you can look at the litter. Scientists literally examined the litter like forensic science and worked out where did it come from, and they could tell it was local. So some of it does come from the oceans. Let's give some perspective on that. So that's one of the biggest myths. There is no floating island the size of Texas. That was made up. There's a whole PhD thesis on how that myth came to be and how it's wrong. Even the guy who first reported this gyre says, people are asking him to sail out there and take pictures. And he said, there's nothing to see. It's just open, clean ocean. You can swim right through these gyres and not even know that you're in them because there's so little plastic. So not to say that there should be any plastic there, but exaggerating something by 1,000 times is not a great solution. And that's what people are doing now. They're exaggerating stuff, looking for funding, looking for sensational headlines, looking for advertising dollars based on stuff that's just outright fiction. This floating island doesn't exist. And what is there in the gyres is about 85% fishing gear, which does cause harm, right? If you drop a fishing net and you just leave it, you abandon it, it does harm things. And so that should be cleaned up. But unfortunately, the people discussing in Geneva and around the world are planning to completely ignore the fishing nets, which are causing a problem and are 85%. And instead, they're having meetings, flying in thousands of people to talk about the consumer items which are in the ocean. And if you look at those, if you add up bottles, straws, and bags, it's 0.03% of the total and not proven to cause any harm. And again, I'm not saying it should be there, but why would you fly 5,000 people to Geneva all around the world again and again and again and talk about the 0.03%, which is not proven to cause a problem, is not enough to harm anything, and ignore the 85%, which is a real problem? This is what frustrates me as a scientist. We have the facts, we have solutions that work, and people are flying around talking about stuff that's not even true.
So, Chris, what is it that I'm a bit perplexed trying to understand why this message is not being communicated adequately by plastics producers, packaging producers, retailers? They're doing a pretty poor job all around, given the weight of evidence here. Why do you think that is?
Part of it is nobody wants to be on the defensive. Part of it is it doesn't look good. Part of it is that all of these companies are paying trade associations to take care of this, and they haven't done it. So many of these trade associations come to me, and they want me, who's worked for 5 years for free, and they've meanwhile squandered millions of dollars. They want me to give them the answers for free. Shocking and incredible.
Yeah.
And so some of the companies have had to take action. One company sent signed copies of the first book to every member of Congress. Another company sent signed copies of the first book, Plastic Paradox, to the Canadian Parliament. And the BPF in the UK was asked to do the same for the UK Parliament, and they refused. Members went to the British Plastics Federation and said, please help us, not to defend plastics, but just to show the peer-reviewed science. And they said, no, we don't want to offend anyone. They've let us down badly. The American trade associations are even worse. Yeah.
Where is the money in all of this? I think that often drives the motivation here, doesn't it?
Here's an amazing one. Somebody told me in Ottawa that I think it was the ACC. I think it was the American Chemical Society. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they said that they had $1 million to focus on microplastics and write a study. And this guy told them, Chris has the answers. Why don't you just get them from Chris? And they said, no, thanks. We're not interested. So they finally released a study last week saying that the facts aren't known. We don't have the facts on microplastics, and it's all up in the air. And it's not true. I've read there's 1,000 studies over 50 years. We have all the answers. We know the exposure. We know what they are. We know that there's no health effects. We know literally even down to whether dogs and cats are being affected by them, whether your pets are being exposed. We have the answer to every single question you could answer, whether they're affecting the oceans, is answered by scientists already. Peer-reviewed science. And it's on my website for free. It's in the book for free.
The website, we will put it into the podcast.
Yeah, so there's a couple of places. One is phantomplastics.com. That's where I consult. That's my actual job, not this that I'm doing now. And then I have a new website. It's plasticsresearchcouncil.com. And that's a nonprofit where top scientists, you can see we have a toxicologist, we have professors, and we work without a single penny of salary to share the science verbatim with links to the peer-reviewed science. So literally it's word for word, copied and pasted from the studies with no spin, with links and vetted by professors around the world, working without a single penny of compensation, and that's plasticsresearchcouncil.com. So you might wonder, where does the money go? And the point is that money is to buy a bigger megaphone. So we take this peer-reviewed science that we've collected for free and shared for free, and we're paying PR companies to try and get it out there to these journalists.
So are the journalists building the froth here? Is that what you're suggesting?
Oh, well, it's been scientifically proven. So they did a study comparing what journalists tell us about microplastics to what scientists tell us. And if you look at the scientific studies, the vast majority say there's no evidence of anything whatsoever. And if you look at the journalists, what they're telling us in the media, 93% of their articles say that there's a definite threat. So the consensus of scientists after thousands of studies and 50 years is, and the FDA and everyone agreeing there's no threat. And then journalists are telling us every day, there's a threat, buy our newspaper.
I was amazed seeing something very similar on the BBC just a week ago, and I had to turn it off because it's patently rubbish.
I know. I mean, you'd have to have a spoonful of plastic in your brain to believe that nonsense. How gullible are these people? Were they not paying attention in science class? And just to give you an idea how ridiculous it is, first, they used a method that doesn't work, and everyone knows it doesn't work. And secondly, it would take you 10,000 years to ingest 6 grams of plastic. So how can you have accumulated in your brain, assuming if it was even true, 1,000 times more plastic than you've ever breathed and eaten in your life? It's impossible. So, and
it's very tempting to make some facetious comments about people's brains, but that's not for the discussion.
I once talked to a Washington Post reporter. She was worried about vinyl chloride from pipes in the water. And I said, she said, oh, what about this vinyl chloride? Is it coming out of the pipes into the water? I said, no, it's impossible. There's none there. And she said, but is it coming out of the pipes? I said, well, look at it this way. Are you worried about lions escaping from your garden? She said, no, I don't have any lions. I said, aha, exactly. If it's not there, it can't escape. It's never there. It's not there in the first place.
Right.
It's all regulated. It's all detected. They even have like surprise inspections on PVC pipe factories where they steal pipe from the factory and analyze the heck out of it for, decades. They've never found anything. So rather amazing.
Would you rather have lead coming out of your pipes?
I know. That's the scary thing. There's even an NGO who's paid by Michael Bloomberg, and they go around saying that plastic pipes shouldn't be used and you should use copper instead. So I thought, well, I wonder how true that is. So first of all, I checked the life cycle studies. Plastic pipes are vastly better than copper for the environment. And then I looked at toxicity. Copper is toxic at 1 part per million. If you've got more than 1 part per million copper in your drinking water from the pipes, it's toxic. And there's literally proven cases of poisoning. It's not like theoretical. It's actually happening, especially if you've got acidic or basic water. Copper pipes actually fail the safety test if it's not at neutral pH. And the plastic pipes
indeed
pass and the copper pipes fail. To show you how dangerous it is, the EPA have it's called the lead copper rule. So they literally come to my house every year and ask me to take a sample of my water and test it for lead and copper because they're so poisonous. They're worried about it. And again, the journalists just cover whatever they've fed.
What are the next steps? I think you're going away to a congress, I think, in the next couple of days, aren't you as well, Chris?
Yeah, that's been a big development since we last spoke. Because no one else has read the science, no one else. I mean, how stupid do you have to be to read 5,000 studies unpaid? Nobody else is that foolhardy.
Quite a feat.
Yeah. So because of that, so people are like, oh, how did you become the expert? Like, because no one reads anymore. That's how. So because of this, because of the other book, because people are saying, so this is all shared for free. And then people say, well, will you come and tell me about this? Will you fly to Hong Kong, for example, next week? And I'm like, I hate traveling. I despise it. So when people ask me to go for free, obviously I can't drop my paying job and leave my family and go flying around the world all the time. I just can't do that. So that has become a big thing. Keynotes around the world, and I get paid for that. I have to accept money for that because otherwise there's just no way I can do it. So I've been to Hong Kong. I'm going to Hong Kong. I've been to Mexico twice. I met the Minister for the Environment of Mexico. And when we left the meeting, she said, oh, I get it. Plastic is the least of our worries. Because I showed her the data. Plastic is 0.5% of materials we use. They grow at the same rate as every other material, concrete, metal, glass, paper. And they're the greenest, lowest impact choice 9 times out of 10 if you look at life cycle studies. So I'm not minimizing the impact of plastic, but at a moment where we're obsessing over 0.5% of materials that are the greenest option 9 times out of 10, anyone who was truly worried about the environment would be talking about the other 99%, which are worse for the environment. They create 4
Absolutely.
times more waste. They create 3 times more greenhouse gas. They create more litter, and they cost more as well. So people with a good intention are paying more to make the environment worse. That's what's going on now because they've been misled by the media and by greedy environmental groups telling
Well,
them
that's an interesting way of putting it. I think one that's going to resonate with a lot of people. And I mean that we, of course, are going to be talking about this conversation with our business partners in the chemical industry and elsewhere. But the issue I don't think is really there. I think it's in the consumer's mind. And the more that you can work, as you're doing now, to influence and to inform journalists in particular with what the realities of life are,
yeah.
so much the better.
Well, here's the funny part, right? If you ask me, what would I prefer? I would grab a metal can or a glass bottle over a plastic PET one any day. I prefer it. I'm not telling people what to do. I'm not their parent, right? I'm not the government. But what I don't like is that people with a good heart are paying extra to make things worse. They've been lied to. That's what I mind. If you know the
Yeah.
truth and then you pick the glass bottle, you go and do it. But don't do it because some glass company lied to you and said it's the greenest solution, because it clearly isn't. Every study
It's
shows that
obviously
it is.
not.
And I've got a McKinsey study right in front of me because I'm a scientist and I always speak from facts. And it's Noder Gordon et al., 2025. They literally compare what do the consumers think. They think that glass jars are the best option, and they're the worst, according to every study ever done. And then they think paper is the next best option, which is not true. Then they think metal cans, which is also not true. Right at the bottom, they think that plastic is the worst, and plastic has the lowest impact, not according to studies from the plastic industry, according to every independent study by every university in the world. It's just that clear, but people don't know it.
You expressed to me a while back one of the simple ways to look at it is, what does something weigh in
Yes.
terms of looking at environmental impact?
Yes. So if you replace plastic, and you can check this yourself in your own kitchen, right? Go and weigh, first of all, weigh no straw. 0 weight, and that's the greenest option. Don't take a straw. I'm not telling you to take a plastic straw.
Yeah.
Take no straw.
Yeah.
Next weigh the plastic straw, less than a gram. Next weigh the paper straw, 2 grams. Next weigh the metal straw, 20 grams. Glass straw, 30 grams. Weigh them, and that's almost the same as their impact. Or look at the cost of them. The more it weighs, the more it costs, the worse it is for the environment. And gold is a great example. You generate 20,000 kilograms of CO2 to make 1 kilogram of gold. And what else do we know about gold? Horrendous for the environment, horrendously expensive, and it's always recycled because of those things. And on the other end of that seesaw, we have plastic. Very low impact for the environment, very cheap, and therefore not as economical to recycle because it's so cheap and so green. So that's the trick that the aluminium people are playing on us. They're saying, buy an aluminium can. It's got so much value at the end of life. I'm like, yeah, that's because you wasted so much energy and money making it in the first place. This argument is the same as telling you to go and buy a Ferrari because at the end of the life, it's going to have a higher trade-in value than if you bought a Fiat. I mean, what nutcase would fall for that argument? Go and buy a Ferrari because it's got a higher trade-in value than a Fiat. And you're like, but hang on a minute, a Ferrari is $200,000 and a Fiat is
Exactly
$20,000.
right.
That makes no logical sense. But that's what the aluminium is trying to perpetrate on us. The aluminium industry is telling us, go and buy aluminium cans. They're really expensive and worth recycling. This is totally insane that people fall for that.
There's a reason why they're expensive.
Yeah. And again, I would pick the aluminium can, but I can afford to, and I prefer it, but I wouldn't pick it based on lies. I'd pick it because I want it.
No, indeed not. I think the straw question was the one that always riles me, because I'm also concerned about the bacterial qualities of used metal straw.
Yeah.
And how much it costs to clean that straw, and how is it actually clean, and what usage in that straw, and so on and so on. And look at the impact of that is absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, as you know, this all started because my daughters were told clear lies at school, and that made me angry. That's what gave me the energy to read all those studies.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
And they were given metal straws by school. Complete nonsense, terrible for the environment. And as you said, they never use them. They sit in a drawer. And so they either take no straw, or my youngest daughter reused a plastic straw 50 times. And that's the thing about single use. Nobody's making us throw it in the bin. We can reuse these things if we want to. We have polystyrene spoons that we've reused for 5 years and are still going strong.
Exactly.
So you can put them in the dishwasher and reuse them again and again. Nobody's holding a gun to your head and saying, here, throw it away after one use.
I guess it's taken a century or so to people to learn to reuse glass. For example, a glass jar, you use it for other things. And perhaps what we're talking about here is really just a distortion of time in the length of time you've had to get used to plastic straws.
Yes, that is part of it. These other materials are kind of in our psyche. They're considered natural. People see paper and they think it's natural, must be good. People see metal and glass. We've had them for thousands of years. And so there's a deep trust of those materials, which we haven't got yet about plastic. When you see a plastic bag on the kitchen counter, it looks awful. The whole room's messy just from one bag because it looks so synthetic and it jars the eye. And that is a big part of this. It's very easy to demonize plastic because it's the new kid on the block, and we haven't accepted it as something.
That's exactly
part
right.
of nature. That is an issue.
Well, if I may, Chris, I'm going to wish you the very, very best at your upcoming meeting in Hong Kong.
Thanks.
And I hope it's you are, as always, as persuasive to get 500 people out of that Congress, really understanding the facts and promoting the facts.
Thank
as
you.
opposed to the myths.
It's going to be 2 keynotes, and then further to so one on the regular, all the topics, another one, the only one in the world dedicated to microplastics, dispelling every single myth with science. And then I'm going to go and do on a university tour, media engagements, and all of that, and meet all of the influential business people. So should make.
Well, I
quite
wish you all the very best with that, Chris, and I hope that we have a chance to catch up in the next few months and see what else is happening around the world in this wonderful area.
Thanks, and let's not leave it so long next time, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely not. See you very soon.
Cheers.